We bring in everything else? Ah, coasting around the campfire. Hello. Welcome back to Deathgate. Hello. Where were we last time? We were sitting around a campfire on Prion. We found the world seal, or not the world seal, but the seal piece for Arianis last time, and we found out that the Sartan were dead in that place. We left behind a very well developed character who was not developed very well in Arianis, as well as we're not going to talk about any other characters that were supposed to be there. One who is very important, one who is supposed to be living with Czar. We're not going to talk about any of those characters. Instead, we're moving on to Prion, where, like I did last time with this book here, I just threw it out because apart from one elf that we ran into who's cooking for King and a character who we're going to be meeting very, very soon, no one else is named. Even though our prince over here, who we've been helping, should be named, and the princess over here should be named, because they have the romantic chemistry and are kind of like two characters that are in Elven Star. They don't get named at all. We have been preparing for a visitor, and we're just going to wait for him to show up. The conversation dies suddenly. You look around to determine the cause and notice that everyone is staring at the disc in the ground. It has started to glow and is getting brighter every moment. Mountain of white fire bursts from the disc. It rises into the air, whipping and spitting about. With a flash, the font disappears, replaced by a somewhat confused-looking man, dressed in a long white robe. As he smooths and brushes his garb, you dive behind a bush out of sight. No mistaking it. This man is Sartan. You don't want to scare him away too soon.
Welcome, my little friends. It's time for the Zifnab show. I hope you're all comfortable. I seem to be without my beautiful assistant. Always liked her outfits, although I couldn't figure out how she kept from catching cold. Well, we'll have to make do without her. I hope you've all been thinking over what we talked about last time. I know you're just dying to philosophize about racial harmony.
Magic, 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 magic.
Hold on there.
Magic, magic, magic.
Whoa! Yes, I know that the races living in conflict is very tragic. That's why we're going to talk about it.
No, we want to see some magic.
Oh, magic! You want to see magic? Let's see. Any of you have a $50 bill? No? How about 100? Put that coin away, son. This trick only works with the high denominations. Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. Where'd the rabbit go to? I could have sworn I had a rabbit in my hat. Maybe it was bats in my belfry.
Stare open-mouthed at this outlandish figure. Without question, this Zifnab is a Sartan, but he is nothing like you envisioned. He seems harmless enough, perhaps even a little mad, but you know how powerful the Sartan were. Best just to observe. The purpose of this whole act could be to lull any potential enemies into underestimating him.
Well, let me try a real showstopper. What was that spell? It always gets everyone's attention. Feather fall? No, something else. Direfall. Fireball? Firehall? Wait, it'll come to me.
Zifnab stands in place, contemplating his spell. Silence lengthens, but the children don't mind. they turn to each other and talk, obviously used through these lapses. Your leg starts to cramp, and involuntarily you shift your weight. The movement shakes the bush you use as cover and attracts the Sartan's attention.
Is that a new little friend I see back there? Come on up here. Every new friend gets to grab a handful of pennies from the jar. My, you're a tall bugger, aren't you? Wait a moment, you're not a child. In fact, you're not even from Pryan. You're a patron.
White Rose Zifnab whips around as he whirls back towards the disc in the ground. Before he can do a thing, he traces a rune construct into the air. The spell floats into the white disc and appears to catch fire. You charge him, but before you reach the disc, he has disappeared to wherever the spell has taken him. There's Zifnab.
Hello, good sir.
Where did he go?
Where did who go?
That flaming Sartan. You know, Zifnab.
Oh, Zifnab. I'm not sure. Sometimes he just gets so flustered that he leaves through the disc. Seeing you sure made him flustered for some reason. We'll all wait around for a while to see if he comes back. It's usually worth it if he does.
Oh, the guy who was just here. Complete blank stare.
Thanks, Prince. I'll speak with you later.
Sure, I'm not going anywhere.
Even though you look to be human, I don't
Yeah, we
know
still
you,
can't
and
talk
I
to
don't
her.
speak to people I don't know.
All right. Well, we did learn a new spell based on what we saw in the cutscene. They do use this a couple of times in the game. We did see him draw this, even though he's a Sartan and does not draw stuff in the air. Let's cast it. You weave the spell in the air. It floats lightly over to the disc. It strikes, and an explosion of light obscures everything. Eventually, the light fades, but what reappears isn't at all like what was there before. Your surroundings are completely altered. The only thing that remains is the disc, but its color has changed to black. The base of a massive branch shielded by leaves. It's home to a dragon. The branch extends over the chasm between the trees. You appear on a wide branch. The somewhat weather-beaten Sartan stands in front of you. Behind him, you notice a gigantic reptile, something you've heard stories about, but never seen. Dragon.
Hello, patron. Before you do anything rash, I must inform you that we are both under the watchful eye of my pet dragon.
Zifnab looks concerned, then kicks the dragon's tail.
Wake up, you stupid dragon! I've got a boogie at 12 o'clock! Unfriendly fire! Traitor in our midst!
Slowly, the dragon opens its huge eye, regards you. The look it gives you says, I know he's a little excitable, but he's mine. Touch him and he'll answer to me. Then it closes the eye and starts snoring.
Whenever I really need him, does he help out? No, he sleeps. It's enough to make someone go out and get a cat. Well, since you're already in my home, I might as well be hospitable. Coffee, tea, a push off of the branch?
All right, Zifnab. Zifnab is one of many characters that Margaret and Tracy have written as the kind of omnipotent, self-aware, fourth wall breaking character. If you've read any of their work, whether it be Dragonlance or whatnot, a character like him shows up. For instance, in Dragonlance, it's not Zifnab who shows up, but an anagram of his name. It's Fizbin, who deals with Hasselhoff, and he's a bit like a god in that series. Whereas he's just a Sartan who's been around since before the Sundering. Now, this version of Zifnab, he is in the second book, and he pretty much just kind of goes around as being the crazy old coot who breaks the fourth wall, and no one understands what he's saying, and because he deals in pop culture pop culture references and things literally from Earth because he knows them still. Now he has to be like a combination between book 2, but also book 6 and 7 when he has to like actually be involved a little bit and have a straighter head. So I don't know. He's a little less fun, but the voice actor does a really good job.
Who are you?
I'm Cortex, the thinking machine. No, wait a second, that's not it. I knew a moment ago. Ooh, that's right. I'm James Bond, Agent 007. I've got a license to kill, so you'd better keep your distance. Somewhere I have a lighter that can obliterate half a continent. Either that or take your picture.
Hmm. There's a lot of just like extra bits there. But yes, he likes to be everything that he actually is not. He loves sticking with James Bond. I think that's most of book 6. He likes to be James Bond. So we could skip like the random pleasantries a little bit.
What?
Something wrong with you? I told you, I'm Bond, James Bond. I don't think this boy's playing with a full deck.
No, you're not. You're Zifnab, the children told me.
Haha, that's just my cover. You a fool, huh? Can't blame you. I'm the best in the business.
Quit fooling around. I know you're Zifnab. Although what kind of name Zifnab is, I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah? Well, what kind of name is Haplo?
How'd you know my name is Haplo?
Your name is Haplo? Glad to meet you. I'm Zifnab.
Ugh.
You didn't answer my question. How'd you know my name is Haplo?
Why, you just told me when you introduced yourself. You'd better start paying attention to the conversation if you're gonna learn anything.
Try to keep it together, Sartan. I need some information.
Well, let's see. I have a piece of microfilm lodged in my inner ear from my smuggling days, but I can't really talk about that. How about the weather? Pretty sunny, huh? Actually, talking about the weather isn't quite as interesting when it's always the same.
Yeah, this part here is really just skipping forward because Zifnab doesn't really do much. Like, he talks about a prophecy in the second book, but it doesn't really have to do with how more involved he decides to be here.
Why are you talking to the children about racial harmony?
The races have never been closer to tolerating each other, especially the children. If I can impress upon them the importance of peace, they may achieve unification.
Which is a complete opposite to how it is depicted in the second book. I'll probably say it again by the time we're done with Brian. Elven Star. It's a really cynical book by the end of it. Because yeah, the whole unification thing, we don't really get a sense of that. Kind of the opposite, actually.
You've referred to the unification. What exactly is it?
The unification, that's the racial harmony I've been talking about. When all the races come together and are capable of living with each other, the worlds are key to open their resources to the Mensch, wake up the sleeping Sartan, and ready the realm for the interconnection.
Mm-hmm. We heard about this last time with the overall plan.
Each world set up its own test to determine when the unification occurred. When the Mensch figured out the way into the Citadel, when they worked together to enter it, they will have unified. This was supposed to happen in every realm. After all of them were ready, the Council was supposed to complete the sundering by interconnecting the realms. The new society would begin. But it's been so long. Far too long. Something went wrong.
Mm-hmm. We're skipping a whole bunch here. This is like book 6. He's talking in his sense here.
What do you think went wrong with the plan?
We took on too much ourselves. We were gods, and we were infallible. I warned Sama that we should wait. There were alternatives, but he didn't listen. He was full of his dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, very lucid.
Where are the other Sartan?
I don't know. Have you seen them? I figured they'd been hiding from me all this time. Some joke. I turn my back for a couple years, take a little moonlight stroll, and they all go away. Well, it's not funny!
I found a group of them on Arianis. They were in crystal coffins.
Of course they were. The unification has yet to take place on Arianis. When it does, the coffins will open and the Sartan will come out to help the mensch.
Well, I kind of did that part, and,
No, you don't understand. I did something there, and the coffins opened. All of the Sartan were dead.
They're dead? All dead? How did it happen? How could it happen? You did this, patron, didn't you? Somehow your race has struck back and killed us. Admit it!
That's right, you Sartan scum. I've personally and single-handedly killed off your entire race.
You'll pay, patron! I will have revenge!
the last line connects and your innards explode. Well, if you ever wanted to be killed by Zifnab, that's how you do that. Yeah, so we need to go back. Whoopsie.
Who are you? Why are you talking? You've
Eat.
What do you?
We.
Where are the? I found a. No, you. You're wrong, Zifnab. One of my missions is to find out where the Sartan disappeared to. If the Sartan are dying off, it's not of my doing.
Ah, of course. Your people were imprisoned when this happened. You couldn't have had anything to do with it. There's something else out there.
Where do you think they could be hiding?
Well, I left them in the Citadel when I went for a walk. I assumed that they'd be along, but they never came. I haven't seen them since.
They went over to get some things from the store. You know the store here?
Why are you here?
I don't know why I'm here exactly. Even though our policy is non-interference when it comes to the unification, I felt I had to help it along. It's been so long and the mensch have never been so close as they are now.
It doesn't really fit Zifnab's whole thing. But then again, he does get much more involved later in the series.
How long have you been here? Alone?
I'm not alone. I've got my dragon, I've got the children. I don't need more than that. But it seems like a long time since I've seen any of my people. A long time.
Let's talk about something else. You're obviously uncomfortable with this subject.
Suit yourself.
Alright, time to talk about...
What is this dragon?
He's my pet dragon. I met him shortly after I came to Prian. He took a liking to me, so I decided to adopt him. He told me that he embodies good in the wave. Doesn't make any sense to me. If he's supposed to be the personification of good, then he wouldn't be so lazy.
Alright. I will say that the dragon is one of my favorite characters in the series, because he's not just the dragon, but he also goes by a couple other names. I mostly call him the butler because that's kind of how he acts and how he has to pretty much be a caretaker for Zifnab here, as well as his demeanor overall. He also, later on, when he's just kind of going around mostly in human form, is known as the Gentleman in Black. And, yeah, fits the whole butler description and character that he's given.
That dragon is the embodiment of good?
I know, hard to believe, isn't it? Especially since he didn't just eat you up as soon as you arrived.
Are you implying that I'm evil?
Of course not. Are you inferring that you are evil? That may be important. We might be on the verge of a breakthrough. A few more sessions and we'll be able to make some serious progress on your complex.
What's the wave?
You know, it's when a portion of the audience lifts their arms, followed by another portion, then another, until it completes a full circle around the stadium. No, wait, that's different. The wave is a little harder to explain. Reality is balanced. Good and evil can never be more powerful than each other. When that happens, the wave compensates. The dragon was created a long time ago in response to something else. Something very evil.
Mm-hmm. The actual villain of this series.
Do you know what the evil thing was?
Is, my good man, is. Since my dragon here is still around, you must assume that his evil counterpart is still around as well. I have my theories as to its form, but it's such a depressing subject that I prefer not to talk about it.
Yeah, we won't see this for a while.
Enough. Let's talk about something else.
All right, how about those Steelers? Think they'll go all the way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they will.
Where'd you get these transporter discs?
They're just something I picked up. Rather handy, don't you think? I had to plant the white one in the ground to keep the children from wandering off with it. I wouldn't want to appear in the middle of the campfire. If I didn't have them, I'd have to rely on my pet dragon to take me everywhere, and getting him out of bed could blow a whole day. As far as I know, there's no other way back to the nearest tree.
Oh, we'll figure out a way.
Where is Priam's seal piece?
Ah, the seal piece. Your lord needs it, huh? You know, there are better uses for it than what he intends.
What uses?
Interested? Well, back in the old days, we had plans for those pieces. Big plans. Plans that make other plans look really small. Really huge plans. And important, woo-wee. You don't get any more important than those plans. That's how we made plans in the old days. Big and important.
Well, what were your plans?
What plans?
Moving on.
What do you know about my lord?
Oh, nothing. I'm sure he's a wonderful fella. Life of the party kind of guy. Am I right? I'll bet he could show me a card trick or two.
How do you know what my lord intends?
What do patron lords usually intend after they've escaped from thousands of years of imprisonment? You think maybe he wants to conquer the realms, reform the world to enslave the masses? No, nobody's that antisocial.
Well, Czar kinda is.
Don't try and throw me off track. Where is it?
All right, don't get in a huff. Where did we put that piece? Didn't we build something to put it in? Oh, that's right. It's in the Citadel.
All right, that's a start. What's the Citadel?
That's a pretty open-ended question. The Citadel is a fortress, or it's a city, or it's a power station. Take your pick.
We've been there already, but yep.
Where is the Citadel?
Oh, it's that way, I think. You should be able to see it from the air in your flying ship. It's really big. Had to be, you know?
Yeah, I love this description because even in the book, getting to the Citadel was just a gigantic chore. Because no one actually knew the directions in order to get to the Citadel. Also, they treat the Citadel as only being one Citadel, which is wrong because there's multiple. There just had to only be one for the game.
How do I get in?
That's a toughie. No one can get in. In fact, it was designed to keep everyone out. I certainly don't think any exceptions were made for angry patrons. Of course, after the unification, anyone could just walk right through the front door.
You mean I'll have to make all of the races get along before I can get that door open?
Well, it's not quite that difficult. We set up a test to detect when the races started to get along. We gave each a symbol. A golden sword to the humans, a golden staff to the elves, and a golden hammer to the dwarves. If a representative from each race places their symbol upon the door to the Citadel at the same time, it will open. The three races must do it together. One man with all the symbols wouldn't be able to open the door.
Doesn't mean that they're actually going to be getting along. Because even in the books, that didn't happen. But also the three symbols thing was also not a thing either.
Where are all of those symbols?
They certainly didn't take quite the care of them that we hoped they would. Only the humans still revere their symbol, but they look on it as a symbol of leadership instead of its actual meaning, the human's role in a new integrated society. Every human leader carries it. It gives them the authority to rule. I believe the current holder is the young princess who occasionally comes to my gatherings.
Mm-hmm.
The elves threw their staff into a local pit called the Maw. It's been lost for generations. I don't know how the unification can occur until it is recovered. The dwarves, straight-line, practical thinkers that they are, took one look at the hammer, decided that it was the most inferior hammer they'd ever seen, and stuck it deep in their weapons vault. I don't think they even remember that they have it.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing at a time. We definitely know about the staff, so we gotta figure out how to get that. And also how to talk to the princess in order to get the sword. I'll have to deal with the hammer later.
Isn't there any other way to get in the Citadel?
Well, let's see. A spell might help you out. Maybe if you blew down a wall or something. There's one spell I remember. What was it? Tie a wall, lie a stall? I can't seem to recall. Oh well, sorry I couldn't help.
No one is going to be teaching you teaching Haplo magic at all. Especially when this guy can't even remember one spell.
Didn't you come from there? How'd you get out?
Getting out is not the same thing as getting in. In fact, they're two entirely different things. Yin and yang, night and day, black hat and white hat.
Tell me more about the Citadel itself.
All right.
How is the Citadel a fortress?
At present, that seems to be the only task that it accomplishes on a regular basis. All of its other functions were intended to come online following the unification. Right now, the Citadel lies dormant. The Titans roam the forest. Everything waits on the unification. That's why I'm trying so hard to convince the children to throw away their prejudices.
Mm-hmm. And then he brings up the Titans.
Titans? What are they?
The Titans are magical creatures created to operate the Citadel. We built them to last too. Big suckers, maybe 3 times your height, and powerful enough to rip up a small tree. Their appearance is a little unsettling. They don't have any eyes. Don't need them. We gave them enough magic to sense everything around them. In fact, they can sense things miles away when they're motivated enough. When we built this realm, we dumped them into the forest. Until the Citadel powered up, they had nothing to do. I think they went a little crazy. They knew they were supposed to serve the Sartan, and they knew that the Citadel was important, but that's about it. Titans aren't the smartest creatures.
Mm-hmm. One of the question that the Titans constantly ask, which they won't ask in this game, is where is the Citadel? And they want an answer. If they don't get an answer, you die.
Somehow they found a Sartan relic. I think it was a crystal sculpture of some sort. Without purpose in their lives, they fixated on it. To them, I suppose it had religious significance, and to this day, they worship it. Against all of our expectations, the Mensch actually encountered the Titans. Dwarves moved into the area surrounding the Titans' forest. They understandably wandered in. The Titans reacted by defending their relic, and they drove the dwarves off, dragging their wounded behind them. But dwarves are stubborn creatures, and they continue to live just outside of the forest. As long as they stay outside, the Titans leave them alone.
And that's kind of different to how the Titans are introduced in the second book, where they come from one of the northern states. They just talk about how there's this force that just completely wiped out the northern parts because refugees were coming across the inner sea to the southern human areas. But whatever took out that area was coming around, which was going to go through dwarven territory to get through everything else. And that was the Titans.
The two races live in uneasy peace. The Titans notice nothing besides their artifact, and the dwarves leave it alone. Those dwarves are understandably nervous, living so close to their enemy, so they keep a stock of weapons handy. I don't think they've actually pulled them out for years, but having them available makes them feel more secure.
What exactly is the Titan's purpose? Why'd you make them?
The Citadel is a big place. It needed a lot of workers to keep it running smoothly. Instead of enslaving the Mensch or working the Citadel ourselves, we tailor-made a race to do it for us. We also designed them to protect the Citadel, and ironically, the Mensch as well. Somehow, they've perverted this defensive behavior to focus on the crystal artifact to the exclusion of everything else.
Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing about the Citadel, is that they're not in there, which means no one's in there, which means nothing's operating.
Of course, their unnatural interest in this piece of Sartan refuse should disappear when the Citadel is open. The unification will trigger the imprinted behavior that will summon the Titans into the Citadel. They should start it operating, and they'll forget about everything in their previous lives.
What's the Titan's magic sense like?
The Titans had to be given the power to sense the position of objects, even though the objects might be out of sight. This was principally for the operation and repair of the Citadel after it started working. Because they were equipped with this sense, we decided not to give them eyes. They see better than you or I, and they track better than any scout, since they already know the location of something, even when they're away from it.
Mm-hmm. Their magic sense, on top of their just like raw magic potential, really makes them dangerous. There's a scene in the second book where Haplo just has to defend his ship against a Titan coming in, and they're trying to get the ship off. And it's pretty much just a big laser battle that happens there, and yeah, Haplo almost dies.
How is the Citadel a city?
We intended the Citadel to house everyone, the humans, the elves, and the dwarves all together. Naturally, this couldn't happen until they learned to live peacefully among each other. So it's false wait, empty and dead, for the unification.
With the question of where's the Sartan?
How is the Citadel a power station?
Prian has a role in the whole. Following the interconnection, Prian was to supply power to the other realms. Its 4 suns produce more than enough energy for itself and the other worlds. The Citadel was supposed to control the flow of energy from the suns through the Death Gate into the other worlds.
Mm-hmm. Especially to the next worlds we're going to. 'Cause that has an energy problem.
How about we talk about something else?
Suit yourself.
Give me one good reason why I shouldn't blow you away.
If you so much as look at me wrong, my dragon will find out what you're made of and decorate the tree with it.
He smiles, leans against a non-existent branch, and falls on his face.
I have had enough. Goodbye, Sartan.
Well, I can't say I'm sorry to see you go, Haplo. But take care. You have many trials ahead of you. The fate of the world rests on your shoulders.
I'm sure they do. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, even though the dragon is my favorite character, he's not going to say much right now. All right. Well, that's pretty much it. We have to find a way into the Citadel, do all that stuff. But we need to get the MacGuffins first.
You're welcome to take that disc. I can always get my dragon to ferry me back and forth, but unless I miss my guess, you don't have a pet dragon. Without the disc, you're going to have to find another way back to the other tree.
Mm-hmm. So, we have that black disc. Otherwise, there's the far tree, which is the tree that we started from. Got a branch that reaches over the chasm. So, what if we just swing around? The thing is, we can't really swing from this one because the location's actually just down from where we are. It's also the yellow flowers that the cook was talking about. That if we crush them, brings off a kind of a stinky, stink smell. Yeah, mildly repulsive smell. There's also the blue flowers, which we might as well take. So we now have pink, yellow, and blue. And then we can swing on the clothesline back to where we started. We just kind of make a loop. And now, we should have everything we need in order to actually get to the staff. Not even sunlight makes it down to the bottom. Well, let's throw it in. Now we have transportation back down into it. They're just going to be chilling around the fire, seeing if Zifnab comes back, but sorry everybody, he won't. Because we have a trip down to the... How should we put this? Because again, this is an inverse world, so we're actually going... Like, if we're inverse, then we're going up to the surface? They don't really describe the gravity of Prion that well. And what reappears isn't at all like it was, like what was there before. Your surroundings are completely altered. Alright, so here we are. This area is actually surprisingly forgiving if you don't have what you need in order to do everything down here. But first we can look at a bunch of things. Seems that someone else has made it to this root ledge, but finding himself here, had nowhere to go, and died. But finding himself here, had nowhere to go, and died. It appeared he had been here for a long, long time. A root of the nearest tree curls around the web. It has enough space for you to stand safely outside the web. It's also It's also home to another visitor who's been here quite a bit longer than yourself. Only the most resilient parts of his body remain. There we go. Excuse me. The web bulges in places where the spider has imprisoned its visitors. You can make out some large animals and a few human or elven figures inside the translucent web pods. Inside one of the pods, you see a silhouette, a staff. Along with its dead owner, inside a pod. One golden end protruding from the rod reflects the white light, the little light in the pit. The problem is that we have... Spirit now have a shadowy, sinister look about them. They're too large and smooth to climb. The web supports the monstrous spider, along with a few pods containing previous visitors, vital fluids removed. But we also have the insects. And a hive. Well, we kind of know what to do with a hive. Let's set it on fire. As soon as you touch the hot ember to the massive hive on the tree, it bursts into flame. In surprise, you jerk your hand back and drop the shell containing the ember into the web below. The air erupts with the nasty stinging bugs that have made their hive their home. The creature is as big as a house. Venom drips from wicked fangs and compound eyes scan back and forth. Sits quietly, patiently, in the center of the massive web surrounded by pods, which contain previous visitors to its domain. The whole effect is rather unsettling. Although the insects avoid the yellow flowers you hold, the smell doesn't keep them from swarming towards you. Some alight on your body, sting you repeatedly. Pain is fierce and you start to weaken. So this is the time when we actually have to start making decisions here. To start, we're going to just crush the flowers so that the bugs are not going to potentially kill us, because again, this is a number of turns that you're able to make and choices before eventually you just die. So if we do that, then we are able to continue and do a whole bunch of other actions. Otherwise, we would have to escape through the black disc and try again. that's what makes this rather kind in order to solve these puzzles. So now that we have that, again, what attracts the bugs is something sweet. So we have the marmalade. We get a spider. With a grunt of effort, you heave the jar of marmalade at the spider. It strikes dead center and smashes open. The marmalade splashes all over its disgusting body. You can smell the sickly sweet aroma from here. The insects are immediately attracted by the sweet smell of the marmalade splash spider. As one, they swarm toward it. The center of the web becomes a flurry of activity. The stinging insects whirl around the spider as it thrashes in agony. Soon, the one-sided battle dies down. The spider slumps onto the web in death. Ugh. Ugh. Alright. So, now that we don't have to deal with the spider, and the insects are busy, we can do what we need to do, which is get that pod open. Which we only have only one thing that we could use to cut that pod open. It takes us a few minutes in order to do it, too. You grab the staff, make your way back to the relative safety of the ledge. Now, there is other things that we're kind of needing here. One thing that we're needing pretty soon and another long way to go. Because if we look at this corpse again, you notice we could push it. You shove the remains of the ancient traveler to one side. Underneath, you discover a patch of toadstools and a glowing arrow. It glows with a magic aura. We won't be using this arrow for quite a while. But the toadstools, pretty soon. Like the tiny red spots. All right. Even if you could climb the sheer trees, it would take weeks to reach the top. So that's why we gotta teleport. Unfortunately, that black disc gets to stay down there. Unless the dragon wants to come down here in order to get it. Here. So, with the prince, he's needing 3 things in order to woo the princess. The first, of course, is the staff. Staff is perfect. Its golden surface is flawless, much like the other Sartan artifacts you found.
Thank you! Oh, thank you! How did you manage to get it? Never mind. I know that you're a wizard, but you've done something that my people have tried to do for generations. First you save my life, then you regain the golden staff. If there is anything I can do for you, just tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I have the golden staff, she'll have to take me seriously as a fellow monarch. But even if I gain her respect with the staff, she still probably won't like me very much unless I can give her something nice, something as pretty as she is. Then, once she's feeling kindly towards me, I need something to keep me from stumbling all over my words. I can never figure out anything to say.
Well, he has a staff. Give the flute to the princess. The flute she already has. Thank you. Actually, I'll look at the princess again because that last sentence is important. You can tell she's a talented musician, but a slight cough keeps her from performing an entire song. Important information. So, he needs something nice, and he needs something to not trip over his words. Flowers always work.
Thank you, sir. I have the golden staff, so she'll have to take me seriously as a fellow monarch. These flowers are perfect to make her look kindly upon me, but I still need the right words to say. Otherwise, I'll start stammering and looking foolish. I'll never get anywhere like that.
So what could give him the right words? Well, we do have that poetry book from back in Arianis. No other reason to have it. Some poetry could help. You give the final item to the prince and offer a quick word of encouragement. He breathes deeply to bolster his courage and strides toward the princess, holding the staff out before him like a shield. prince nervously sidles up to the princess. Her eyes open wide when she sees the object he holds. Her eyes open wide when she sees the object he holds, and she excitedly asks about it. He stammers an explanation, and she nods throughout, but it is obvious that he is losing her attention. He thrusts the bunch of blue flowers toward her. She gasps in astonishment, but smiles and accepts them. For the first time, you notice that she has a twinkle in her eye when looking at the prince. You sense that she is beginning to see the prince as something other than merely an elf or a prince, and more than a friend. She says nothing, however, and the silence begins to expand. The prince pulls out the book of poems and flips through it. He reads at random from a poem which speaks of a man's love for his favorite steed. When he realizes the poem's subject matter, he immediately stops and moves on to another. Instead of being insulted, the princess giggles softly at the prince's boyish attempts to enchant her. Soon he has found a heart-rending poem that actually brings tears to the eyes of the princess. At the end of the reading, she throws her arms around the prince and kisses him. He drops the book and returns the kiss. After a few minutes, the smiling prince wanders back to you.
It worked! All of it! She has agreed to consider my courtship, and I owe it all to you, my friend, more than I can ever repay. But I will try. I know that you have a quest here, but I know not what it is. I will accompany and help you as I can, and perhaps I can give you some fraction of the happiness you have given me.
And we kind of get him as a party member.
Yes, my friend? What can I do for you?
Do you think I can talk the princess into accompanying us?
I'm sure she would be glad to accompany us if you asked. I would have asked her myself, but I didn't want to presume too much.
Do you know anything about the dwarves?
I've never actually seen a dwarf, but my father has. As king, he's spoken with their representatives on a few occasions. They tend to keep to themselves most of the time. They remain carefully neutral in any conflicts we have with the humans, and they're incredibly stubborn. No amount of persuasion will make them take sides. All in all, we usually leave them alone, and they do the same.
Do you know anything about the Citadel?
I'm afraid I've only heard that it exists, but I don't know anything about it. I'm sorry.
Huh. You're kind of scrawny for your age, aren't you?
I'm not scrawny. Elves are just naturally thinner than humans, and I'm still kind of young. When I'm full grown, I'll be taller than you.
Nothing right now, but stick with me.
Sure.
All right. So maybe we can finally talk to her.
Greetings. My prince explained that you are a friend of his and that you helped bring us together. For that, I am indebted to you.
A lot of this is just kind of they kind of drop the pretenses about Haplo and how he speaks to Mensch kind of at this point. But
My role in your romance was nothing, dear princess.
On the contrary, it means everything to me. I am not blind to what the consequences of our union could mean to our races as well. It could unite our peoples. This could usher in a new age of peace. You are largely responsible for that.
It seems out of place when overall this kind of union would do the exact opposite there. Especially when they talk about this question.
What do you think your father is going to say about your union?
I don't think he's ever considered the idea, but he has a lot of respect for the elves. After a little grumbling, I think he'll be happy for me.
Again, just kind of hand wave it away. There's gonna be no problems. Absolutely none. There would be a lot of problems.
The prince is a sweet guy, isn't he?
He's very sweet, a little naive, but all the more adorable because of it. I never really thought of elves that way, but he changed my mind.
Tell me a little about your people.
I thought you were human, but I guess you're not. Otherwise, my people would be your people. We're nomadic. We live all over Prion following the game we hunt. It might appear to the other races that we're rather loosely organized, but that's not true. My father leads us wisely with the council of the people. We have thrived for generations. Our lives are hard, though, and sometimes dangerous. The appeal of the elves' safe and stable society affects many of us. For some, it's too much to resist. They come to the elves as refugees and beg for whatever work is available. I think my people want to settle down. They follow my father out of loyalty, but they're ready to change the way they live. Even I wouldn't mind some stability.
If you wanted to know a little bit more about the humans, there you go.
That's a nice flute you've got there.
Thank you. It was given to me by my warder. He's the one who trained me to hunt and track, but he also taught me to play this flute. He is one of the only people I know who still remembers how to play the old written music. There isn't much of it left, but he collected some of the ancient sheets and kept them safe. I was honored to learn the skill from him.
Are you ill? It sounds like you've got a cough.
I do have a slight cough, but it's nothing. I caught a chill in a downpour a little while ago. I'll get over it eventually. Just now, it's not that bad.
Would you mind doing me a favor?
A favor? Certainly. What is it?
I was wondering if you'd accompany me somewhere. I need you to use your golden sword for a task.
Of course I'll help you. I can't imagine what task would require my golden sword. It's not much of a weapon, it's a symbol of leadership. But I'll be happy to accompany you.
So yeah, again, we're just kind of going like, we need you to use your sword. We're not going to tell you why, but we just kind of need everybody to be in one place. So yeah, we just have 2 people just kind of around now whom we can use magic on if we really wanted to, but there's no reason to.
Greetings, my friend.
Would you mind?
A favor?
This is a joke answer.
Could you scratch my back right here?
Nasty gleam in her eye, she pulls out the golden sword. You decide against the back scratch.
Thanks, Princess. That's all I have to say.
Sure.
We'll do the other pieces pretty soon later. All right. That's it for this area. We have to go back to the Citadel. Which we just happen to know where it is. Whee! All right. There's the Citadel. Now we have 2 of the 3. So now we need to get the hammer. Here's our forest. Here's our branch. The curious branch. Curious stump. Allowing scant sunlight to break through. Something about it makes you uneasy. You could swear you see the trees move, but when you examine them closely, they remain still. Well, the forest is unnaturally still. There are no sounds of birds or animals. There's no wind. A young dwarf girl is tied to a tree with vines they hear. She looks desperate.
You've got to get out of here! There are giants everywhere! They're hiding in the trees just waiting for someone to walk into their forest so they can grab them, throw them against a very uncomfortable tree, and tie them up with vines! Leave before it's too late!
You see them? There's the Titans. Hidden among the trees, you catch only fleeting glimpses of the giants. They look human, though with 3 major differences. They stand about 20 feet high, they lack hair, and they have no eyes. Well, how do we deal with this? Because here's the vines. We can cut them. You know, the shears weren't there. Hi. You approach the struggling dwarf. But when you come within a few yards of her, the surrounding trees shake. Giants appear, lumbering menacingly toward you. They look vaguely human, save for the lack of hair, their huge size, and their eyeless faces. Something other than sight misdirect them. Or they avoid all obstacles in their single-minded pursuit of you. You retreat, rather in a hush, and the forms melt back into the trees. The dwarf slumps in despair. So, yeah, they're gonna come to her whenever that happens. So there's a thing about the Titans, which,
You've got to get out of here! There are giants everywhere!
and I kind of struggle as to where you kind of get the information about it. Other than, like, the books, of course, but that would make no sense to read the books when playing this game because of all the changes that they made. Other than that, it is very, very quiet.
Greetings, my friend.
Would you mind doing me a favor?
A favor? Certainly. What is it?
Oh, right, it's in the book. Right. It's in the very book we read, which also has a tune, which also has a piece of sheet music in it.
Can you play a quick tune on that flute?
Certainly. I'm sorry. This cough keeps me from playing for any length of time.
Would you mind doing me a favor?
A favor? Certainly.
Well,
What is it?
Right now, that doesn't really mean much.
Could you take a look at this book? It has some written music in it. I'd like to know if you could play it.
This is incredible. It's music from the ancients. What an amazing find. Would you like me to play it?
Yes, start playing it now if you would.
Very well. Just tell me when to stop.
Haunting hypnotic melody emerges. The giants stand motionless among the trees, entranced by the haunting melody that the princess plays. So, now let's cut her. You slip next to the struggling dwarf and pull out the garden shear. The princess's melody appears to keep the giants at bay while you saw through the dwarf's bindings. The vines fall away just as the princess coughs and stops playing the flute. The forest erupts with the towering brutes all racing towards you with murder in their eyeless faces. You grab the dwarf's hand, sprint off to the south. The crowd of forest falls away, and when your party finally has reached the clearing, you notice the giants have stopped following you. The dwarf girl gasps for breath. Her legs were obviously made for negotiating much shorter distances. After she recovers, she looks up at you. Naturally, you expect the small creature to overwhelm you with gratitude. That doesn't seem like the face of gratitude.
Why did you rescue me?
What do you mean?
I mean, why would a party of 2 humans and an elf risk their lives to save a dwarf? It doesn't make any sense.
Why wouldn't we?
It just doesn't happen. We haven't even seen an elf for generations, and the humans we have seen have been content to keep as far from us as possible. It suits us fine. Humans and elves can keep their petty wars to themselves as far as we're concerned.
Unfortunately, this is something I feel a little bit too, oh, don't giggle. Don't get to giggle at the lack of compassion. Because, yeah, it hits a little bit too close to home recently.
Because I was hoping you'd help me in turn.
So you wanted something? It must be something really special for you to risk your lives for a dwarf. It's a custom among my people to give a favor in return for one, especially one as significant as saving a life. All you have to do is ask.
You don't have a seal piece, do you?
A seal piece? I don't even know what that is, much less have one. Maybe you could come up with something I could get for you?
Mm-hmm. Except we know that the seal piece is in the Citadel, so that's not really a good question there.
That's fine, but could I talk with you a while before I ask for anything?
Of course. What do you want to talk about?
So again, this dwarf, not the dwarf that's in the book. It's actually more close to the dwarf who's actually in the 4th book, in a completely different world. Grundle, who is a female dwarf. The dwarf in the second book, and also in the sixth book, whose name is Drugar, is a very different dwarf, especially with the events that happen in the second book, which is not going to happen here. Him being pretty much the last remaining living dwarf, because all of them get wiped out by the Titans. So yeah, this one is like, I feel like they just grabbed Grundle from the fourth book and went, yeah, let's toss something like that in here to fill in the dwarf quota.
Can you tell me anything about that building to the south?
Sure. It's the great shining city. No one ever enters and no one ever leaves. The front doors are closed and nothing can open them. We've even tried tunneling in. We just bounced off the floor. It's made of something we've never encountered before.
How did you get captured?
I wandered into the forest of giants when I shouldn't have. I just wanted to see them. Everyone told me that they were actually bigger than humans. I didn't believe it until they jumped out of the trees and grabbed me. The giants don't bother anyone unless you go into their forest. They're pretty touchy about that. I'm just lucky they tied me up instead of stepping on me.
Do they normally squash intruders?
That's what the elders say, and no one's ever said differently. I thought maybe they were exaggerating just to keep us out of the forest, but maybe not. At least they only tied me up.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happens, is they mostly squash people. Other people who have played this game in recent years have made the connection between Attack on Titan and this book, because the rumbling kind of happens in it, where all of the Titans pretty much are just asking and just kind of going on a rampage, asking around, going, where is the Citadel? And no one's able to answer the question, so everybody just dies. All the kingdoms, all the towns, all the villages, all the people just die in a swath of Titans, just leveling everything to the ground. As I was reading it, I'm going like, huh, this is the rumbling like decades before. Interesting.
Tell me what you know about these giants.
Many generations ago, my ancestors dug their tunnels here. When they emerged from the ground to have a look around, they encountered the giants. They weren't friendly, and definitely not especially happy to meet us. Mayhem broke out. The dwarves weren't used to war, but they were quick studies. They forged weapons and battled the giants for years.
That didn't happen in the book. The Titans came, the dwarves wanted to defend their kingdom, and they all died. they all died pretty swiftly.
One day, the giants suddenly stopped fighting. They drew back into the forest and remained there. As long as we stayed out, they left us alone. We keep the store of weapons in a vault, though, ready just in case the giants change their minds and attack. We also have an interesting legend about the giants.
Tell me the legend of these giants.
According to legend, the giants are the children of the Shining City. They lived inside it and were very happy, but they always wondered what lay outside of the city's walls. One day they snuck out. The city discovered them missing. It was furious that its children had left it, so as punishment it took away their eyes and closed its doors, leaving them outside. The Shining City became dark in its sorrow. The giants moved into the forest nearby. They hoped that one day the city would reopen its doors and let them in. The only memory of their time inside was a gem that one of them had brought with them. They cherished that memory and guarded it jealously. One day the city's heart grew lonely. It decided to forgive its errant children and invite them to return, so it began to shine again. If the giants had seen it, they would have rushed home. But the city had taken their eyes and they couldn't see the beckoning light. So they remain inside the forest, waiting for a call that came long ago, and the city waits for its children who will never return. We dwarves believe that if only we could lead the giants back to the city, they would go in and leave the forest to us. We know that they are guarding the gem at the center of the forest. A few brave dwarves have entered the forest in hopes of stealing the gem and bringing it to the Shining City. The giants would follow the gem, and when they came upon the city, it would open its doors to them and they would go back home.
It's a good legend. I have no problems with it. Makes things rather tight. Tighten it. Good.
What do you know about the gem?
Supposedly, it's huge and crystal and has strange writings on it. Actually, it's not supposed to be all that valuable. Crystal's not worth much. You'd figure that something they guarded so fiercely would be worth more.
Well, we definitely want the gem there if it has strange writings on it.
Has anyone ever been able to take the gem?
A long time ago, a dwarf named Lungput the Swift ventured into the forest. Somehow he made it to the center, into a clearing, and there, lying on the ground, he discovered the gem. He grabbed it and bolted for the city. Well, the giants followed him all right, but they caught him before he got anywhere near the city. He tried hiding behind trees and rocks anywhere out of sight, but the giants homed in on him as if he were a beacon. They took back their gem and squished poor Lungput. Since then, no one's ever come back out of the forest once they went in.
How far did you make it inside? Did you actually see the gem?
No, I never got anywhere near it. I didn't even mean to go as far as I did. One step inside the forest was enough for these big bullies. They grabbed me and tied me up. Didn't even say a word.
Are you sure you didn't get stepped on? You're pretty short.
One of these days, gravity is going to realize that people shouldn't have legs that long. Then you'll be sorry.
That's always the gravity argument.
Enough about these giants.
All right? What else do you want to know?
Gravity's always going to bring you down to my level.
Do you know anything about a golden hammer?
A golden hammer? I'm not sure. Wait, I think there's a golden hammer in the weapons vault. A few years ago, there was a false alarm. We thought that the Titans were attacking, so the elders ordered that the vault be opened. Everyone took up weapons and headed towards the forest. At that point, we realized we had been tricked. Some child got his rear tanned, and everyone went to replace their weapons. I was one of the first in the vault, and I noticed a golden hammer shoved way in the back. No one had taken it. I looked at it to find out why. The weight was all wrong, and I determined that it was actually forged of gold. Can you believe it? A soft metal like gold? One strong blow and the thing would flatten. I don't understand why anyone ever made such a useless weapon.
Practicality is a no, but kind of need it.
Do you think you could get it for me? That could be my favor.
I don't think so. The only time the vault is open is in response to an attack by the giants. They never make exceptions. In fact, ever since the false alarm, they are more careful than ever to verify that the attack is genuine. They don't want dwarves harming themselves or others, either by accident or deliberately, by using these weapons. Some of them are very dangerous.
So here's the thing. We need to lure the Titans to the dwarves to think that they're getting attacked, so that they open the vault, so that we can get the hammer. See, this isn't about unification. This doesn't work. This isn't a method. This is forcefully opening a door.
Is there any other way into the vault?
Absolutely not. Dwarves are masters at tunneling. We made the vault impossible to tunnel into by lining it with fire-hardened metals. There's no way in unless it is opened.
Maybe the hammer wasn't meant to be used as a weapon.
Why would someone forge a hammer unless it was meant to be used? That doesn't make any sense.
Could you go ask the elders if they'd make an exception? No one seems to want the hammer anyway.
I could ask, but I already know the answer. Nothing is going to open that vault except an attack from the giants, and I really hope that doesn't happen in my lifetime. I'll go, though. Wait here. I'll be back soon.
I really hope that doesn't happen in my lifetime. It already... Didn't she say that it already happened? That's how she knows that the hammer is gold? The dwarf girl grabs the branch sticking out of the dead tree trunk and pulls it in an intricate motion, which you take the time to memorize. Memorize it. In response, a hidden door pops open. She ducks inside and scuttles downward into a tunnel. So yeah, wait here, she's gonna ask, and then she'll come back. swings open and out steps the dwarf girl, a little out of breath and dirtier for the trip.
It's just as I thought. The elders agree that I should fulfill my obligation, but they cannot open the vault unless we are at war. Have you thought of anything else you want?
You should fulfill your obligation. We're not going to help you fulfill your obligation. Sorry, I'm in my own head right now.
Do the elders have any ideas?
No, they're still getting over the idea that I owe a favor to a human.
Oh,
Could you take me to talk to them? Maybe I could convince the elders.
You don't know the elders. We tend to be a fairly stubborn people, and the elders are about as stubborn as they come. Besides, I don't think you would be able to fit inside the tunnel. Being little comes in handy sometimes.
I don't know about anything else. Perhaps we should talk a bit more.
Fine with me.
Where do you live?
Why, right here. Well, under here, anyhow. We dwarves prefer to live underground. We have a network of tunnels that run for miles in all directions.
I love this piece here because, yes, you're even given a map in the second book of just like the dwarven tunnels of their kingdom. Even though the characters barely scrape up against the dwarf tunnels, like they get to like one of the most extreme corners before they have to turn around and leave again, because the dwarf area in the second book is completely meaningless almost. It's just there for world building, of course.
Let me introduce you to my companions.
Yeah, there's these two people who have been around, and they really, yep, they're here. She says a few words, and the prince appears a little taken aback by the dwarf's gruff and direct comments, but they speak a bit more, and soon both are laughing and enjoying each other's company. The dwarf girl soon turns to the princess, and after the initial pleasantries, the princess lapses into a coughing fit.
That's a nasty cough you've got there, princess. But I know a surefire remedy. It only requires 4 ingredients, and I've got one of them with me. Let's see. You'll need some dead man's friend, the meat from a zuzu nut, the roots of the plith plant, and the dried herbs that I carry.
Dead man's friend.
What the heck is Dead Man's Friend?
It's a fungus, a toadstool that tends to grow under carrion, dead bodies. That's why it's known as Dead Man's Friend.
Well, we definitely have that since we went into the maw.
Can you tell me about the zuzu nut?
The nut is named after the zuzu, a shy animal that survives on a diet of just the meat of the nut. It's considered a delicacy, and it's very hard to come by. The nut's shell is incredibly thick. It's almost impossible to open. The zuzu has to be very strong just to crack them. I think you'll find a grove of the nuts off to the west. Good luck in getting at the meat.
It's very hard to come by. There's a grove over there.
Where am I going to find a plith plant?
They're not rare. You should be able to find them anywhere. The plith have pink flowers. If you see those, just pull up the whole plant. You should get the roots along with everything else.
We did that because we landed on them.
Can I have those herbs?
Sure. I've got them here somewhere.
So we have those herbs. So that should mean we have 3. Well, technically we have all 4.
What are you supposed to do with all of these things?
Just feed them to her. It all ends up in the same place. After she's eaten them all, she should have shaken off that nasty cough.
It all ends up in the same place. Sure. That's just a way of going like, well, we can't really craft an additional system just for this specific purpose, so we're just going to have the very simple inventory girl.
You think that this favor would make us even?
You think a simple cough remedy is worth my life? I owe you far more than that. You keep thinking about what you need. This is just being friendly.
Well, I've already told you about what I need, and now we're going to have to force that.
Can we talk about some other things?
Sure.
Could we go back to the subject of the golden hammer again?
What do you need to know about it?
This is getting us nowhere. The only thing I need is the golden hammer. Could you go try again to get it?
Nothing's going to change. But if it will make you happy, I'll go back in and rack my brains. I'll try everything, and I won't come back out until I've got it. Don't get your hopes up.
Very well. If you do somehow get the hammer, meet me at the Shining City. I need you to do something with it there.
Alright, slips back into the Hall of Stump and closes the door behind her. So we do have the nut. You see a hole where it pulled away from the stalk when you picked it. Inside, you see the nut is mostly hollow except for a small amount of meat. The shell is incredibly hard. Feels like stone. So we don't have the meat inside of the nut. So we need to actually go and open that. It's not this way. Is it this way? Yes. There's our Zuzu. So, here's the thing about this tiny puzzle here is we have this nut. We could give the nut to the animal because it's able to open it. The thing is, it's the only thing it eats. So that would just mean that it's going to eat the meat inside of it. So we need something on top of that so that it won't eat the meat inside of it so that we can take it. So if we put the foul-smelling petals inside of it, and then give it to it, you toss the nut up to the animal perched on the branch. A lightning-quick claw snatches the nut from the air. The animal tucks it close to its furry body, inserts two pointy talons into the hole in the shell, and exerts pressure. With a crack, the nut breaks open. The yellow petals, stuffed inside the nut, fly everywhere. One whiff makes the animal's nose wrinkle up. Evidently, this isn't how its favorite food is supposed to smell. It hurls the nut back at you. When it lands, the meat of the nut falls out right at your feet. You can smell it. Alright. Now, we could eat it, but we need it for the princess anyways. So that means we have the nut meat, the herbs. When you finger them, they crumble in your hands. We have the dead man's friend, and we have the plith plant. So that should just mean 1, gobble, 2, gobble, 3, gobble, 4. After she finishes her snack, she looks up in surprise. She breathes deeply, but her lungs are clear. Her cough has disappeared. The reason for that is because of where we need to go next. We could go a little bit into it, but because of her cough, we are not able to go as far as we need to, which will lead to our death. All right. So we're back to the forest. Now, if we head in, there's the Titans. Yeah, so if we keep going as it is now, the Titans are going to stop us. So.
Greetings, my friend.
Would you mind doing me a favor?
A favor? Certainly. What is it?
Could you start playing the tune from that book I gave you?
Very well. Just tell me when to stop.
Now we can go further in. Forest is lousy with Titans. There are almost as many of the giants as there are trees. It'd be fun if they showed more of them, but they only show one. Titans have gathered round one high tree here. High in its branches, you see something made of crystal. Clearly the focus of the Titan's attention. Although the tree is dead, it still has a few branches on it. Nestled in one of the higher ones, you see a crystal object. Few branches make it possible to climb up to it, but they look rather fragile. You doubt that they could support your weight. Well, let's try climbing. It bends under your weight. When you realize that it could never support you, you release it and step back. Well, Prince is kind of scrawny.
Yes, my friend? What can I do for you?
Could you climb the tree and get that crystal?
All right, I'll be back in a moment.
Prince tiptoes around the unnaturally still giants, vaults up the tree, and grabs the crystal fragment. He climbs part of the way down, looks around nervously at the Titans, and drops heavily to the ground. He runs up and delivers the crystal to you, sweating and puffing. When you look closely, you notice that the crystal object is a fragment, a piece of something larger. It is roughly octagonal and has the naming rune for the world of stone carved into it. You guess that it is a fragment of a copy of the entire world seal, carved from crystal. So now we can get to our next world. We just need the seal. Yeah, we can't go any further, but we do have to go back. We could attack them. You rush at the immobile Titan with the rusty shear, but its self-defense instincts kicked in. It appears that they override even the magic melody. To your credit, you actually get in a couple of swipes before you find what it's like to be a smear on the ground. Well, let's leave. Because once we leave, exiting the forest, you notice a deep rumbling behind you. You realize that the Titans further in are probably out of range of the flute's melody. They've fallen out of thrall. Notice that their precious relic has been stolen and started to rampage directly toward it. And, not coincidentally, you.
They're coming and they'll be here before you know it. The flute's no good anymore. When they find us with the relic, they'll tear us apart.
The relic! That's what they're really after! We've got to get rid of it!
Alright, how do we get rid of it? Well, again, the dwarves need to wonder if they're at war or not. Pull the branch. And the Titans want the crystal fragment. Let's toss it. You're really not given a whole lot of turns in order to figure out what you need to do here. The Titans come crashing through the forest, no longer concerned about what they crush in their path. They totally ignore you and your companions and focus on the stump in the middle of the clearing. After a couple of attempts, they slowly begin to realize that even the smallest of their number is never going to be able to fit inside the dwarven tunnel. Although this fact might have stopped someone even slightly smarter, the Titans aren't even slowed. With bare hands, they begin to excavate their own tunnel. Dwarf curses and battle cries float up from the hole. Compared to the silent, motionless, tree-like state you were accustomed to, these frantic wild Titans are like tornadoes. They leave a swath of destruction through the forest as they search for their artifact. This is how the Titans kind of operate in the book there. Just complete destruction. So, now that we've done this, we've thrown that down, going back into the forest is a dumb idea, so we can't do that.
I was standing there in the tunnels arguing with an elder about opening up the vault when the crystal gem dropped from above, right on the elder's head. Before I could even laugh, I heard the pounding of the giants trying to get inside the tunnel. The elder went crazy. He sounded the alarm and opened the vault right then and there. I grabbed both the crystal gem and the golden hammer and took a back tunnel here. I guessed that I could get rid of my obligation to you and lead the giants back to their home. Here's the hammer you wanted. I'm glad to have been able to repay you. Now all we have to do is wait for the giants to come home. They'll arrive, the doors will open, and everyone will be happy. I hope.
This is what happens when we don't explain things to the people who are supposed to be solving the world problem. You direct the three youngsters to put their respective symbols into the recesses on the citadel door. None of them grasp their meaning entirely, but you assure that all will be made clear shortly. When the last symbol is slid into place, doors swing inward, revealing a gleaming city, an ancient city, with Sartan. In the book, when they get to the Citadel, it's a it's more of a talisman that the dwarf Drugar kind of has, that he's able to put up to the door, and they kind of accidentally stumble into the Citadel, which actually doesn't solve their problem with the Titans, because that problem isn't actually solved until book 6. The Titans arrive, legs pumping, but when they come upon the gaping doors of the Citadel, they lose all interest in the crystal forest. Instead, they file into the city and take positions in front of massive machines as if they knew what they were doing.
There's room enough for all of the races here. If we could live together, we could do it better than ever.
We could do it better than ever. Seems that they do. After a few minutes of tinkering and button pressing pass before the city comes to life, lights flare and the entire Citadel begins to hum pleasantly. The Mensch wander in, their eyes wide with wonder. Thinking about your quest, you regain the crystal fragments from the distracted dwarf. Now, the other thing about the book here is, again, I said that the rumbling kind of happens in the book. When, in terms of just this book alone, there's only maybe 24 people who are still alive at that point. A mass extinction of just the entire world pretty much happens because of the Titans. And by the time they reach the Citadel, it's just the 5 characters who are still alive, not including Haplo, because Haplo leaves once he figures out what's going on in the Citadel, which was, well, the Sartan left a message and kind of abandoned the Citadel because of the Titans not really doing what they were supposed to be doing, and also the lack of communication between the worlds. That's when you first learn about it. So it's really just left with 5 people, which was Paith and Aletha, the 2 elves, Roland and Rhaegar, the 2 humans, and Drugar, the last dwarf. That's it. And despite everything that happens there, everybody dying, the world pretty much being destroyed. I mentioned there was 24, and I only mentioned 5 get to the Citadel. It's because the rest of them can't stop being racist to each other. And so when Haplo goes back to the ship, he passes by the rest of the people who were kind of refugees on the ship in order to get to the Citadel, who were about to just fight each other. I said that the book was cynical, that despite horrific circumstances, despite everything, there will still be racism. It's kind of what's left of that. That changes by the 6th book because, again, there's more than 1 Citadel on Pride. There's 4, I think, 1 for each sun, to harness its energy. So when that happens, they learn in the 6th book that there is actually communication between all 4 Citadels through the talisman that Drugar has. So after the events of all of that, the people who are left alive, which again, there's only 5 of them, decide we're going to use that to transport ourselves to one of the other Citadels where people are still living. People still exist, and they're actually, the unification actually happened at the other Citadels, just not the one that they went to. Their section of the world of Prion really sucked. The Mensch go on, but something else has attracted your attention. An archway, only a few dozen feet inside the Citadel, is decorated by the fire-sealed peaks. Flare just inside the Citadel's gate catches your eye. You see Zifnab coughing and ineffectually brushing soot from his robes. He looks up, sees you as well, and smiles.
my boy. I knew you could do it. They put their symbols into the face of a mysterious building without even knowing why. Quite an achievement if you ask me. That shows leadership qualities. You've inspired loyalty in these children. They trust you.
It would be wonderful if they knew why, but I don't know, that's a formality.
Does your heart good to see them together, doesn't it? Too bad it's only for a little while, It's a good thing they don't know that you're just scouting for your lord, that soon he will destroy these children's lives for his dreams of conquest. That would just ruin their day. Better keep this between you and me if you know what I mean. Don't worry, Haplo, I won't interfere in your mission. In fact, I have a present for you. I tried to take up a collection around the office, but no one there seems to like you very much. I wasn't going to say anything, but they all think you're on the side of evil. That doesn't make you very popular. Most of their ideas of a going-away present took the form of a punch in the mouth. I stuck up for you, though. He's not a mindless puppet, I said. He has very good reasons for wanting to destroy everything. I'm sure he's thought this whole thing through. They seemed a little doubtful, but I know my old buddy Haplo. You'll come through in the end. Anyway, since no one chipped in, I got you this. It's a genuine 100% natural, roughly spherical, all-purpose evil combating device. Really? I know you're thinking, Zifnab, how can this obviously rare and well-crafted document holder also combat evil? Well, fear not. This particular paperweight is magic. That's right. As the stone approaches true evil, it will glow. Soon you will encounter an evil greater than any you've ever known, even in the labyrinth. And it has magic. Horrible, powerful, destructive. Much different than the magic that we command. The rock will react to this magic. The closer you get, the brighter it will glow. When you are in its very presence, crush the rock. You'll know the right time.
What will happen when I crush it?
I don't know, but I'm sure that it will be impressive. And just in case it doesn't work, use the backup plan. Hurl that sucker. I find that a nice solid puck upside the head always slows evil down. Now you're thinking, how can he afford to give this away? Well, that's very astute of you, Haplo. I can't afford it. Of course, I'm taking a loss on this transaction, but when your friends start asking you, where'd you get that great evil combater? You tell them you got it from old Zifnab, and soon they're telling their friends, and they're telling their friends. Eventually, everyone has a Zifnab special. Take Priam's seal piece, Haplo. Go back to your lord. But remember what you've seen here. Remember these people. Consider carefully exactly what you are doing and why.
Doubt. Doubt. By the time you reach the doorway to follow, he has disappeared. It'll be a while before we see him again. We get stone. I love that we can crush it right now if we really wanted to. Zifnab's stone is unremarkable in shape, somewhat rough, but without sharp edges. It's fairly ordinary in appearance, too. Some gift of run-of-the-mill rock. And we got the crystal fragment back, too. I'm just gonna save first. Stream number 3. Okay, testing in stream saves. Because what if we crush the stone? Nope. Can't do it right now. Good. Look at the citadel. The interior of the citadel is even more impressive than the exterior. Spires and towers jut from lower structures, all of which appear to be connected at some point. One huge building as big as a city, functional as well as beautiful. It also has a weird sense of scale because of what the Titans have to operate in it versus where the people are able to live. Because, again, we look at this and going like, okay, the Titans are, again, like 20 feet tall, but here they just kind of look like regular people. Gathered in a chamber so brightly lit that you have to squint to make them out. Perhaps this is why they were created, but they have the ability to see. Yeah, because this is the room where all of the energy from the sun comes in. They kind of depict it, but also not really, unfortunately. Well, there's the fire piece. Got it. Huh. And that's it. Like we don't get a goodbye from the princess or the prince or the dwarf or nothing. We just take the seal piece. The Titans go to work. Yep. It's time to move on. Kind of weird, but also fitting for how the second book ends, which is Haplo just leaving all of the nonsense behind, just moving on with himself. Now, one thing that doesn't happen in the version of the game that I have is that it's supposed to show the cutscene of the ship going into Death's Gate when we do this, which I'm kind of glad that doesn't show it, because it would be annoying to go through that whole thing all over again. It does mean that there's going to be a scene later on that I have to grab to show later, but that'll be okay for right now. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we will talk to Czar once again and move on to the third world. We're going to head on to the world of stone. See you then. And oh, here we am. All right, we're back. Let's jump back into the window so I have control. There we go. All right. Are we ready to talk to Czar again? Hi. We got the piece. You proud of me? Hand over the fire seal piece and quickly recount your experiences on Prion. Czar listens closely to your description of Zifnab and the Titans, obviously troubled by both encounters.
Excellent, my son. You exceed even my best expectations. Not only did you recover Priam's seal piece, but you have discovered a living Sartan. I doubt that he is alone as he claims, and the addition of these titans to his forces means that he is someone to be reckoned with. I will have to adjust my plans to compensate. We might have to destroy this citadel to be sure of the giant's destruction. It is a shame you couldn't bring Zifnab back with you for further questioning.
Oh, well, reading further into the books, Zifnab just has access to the Nexus whenever he wants, so... whatever.
You have the crystal fragment of the world's seal. Use that to place the naming rune of Abarak upon your steering stone, and then leave as soon as you can. Events are occurring at a fast pace. If even one Sartan knows you exist, we must assume they all do. But we need information. I must know what the other realms are like, where the Sartan's forces are, and what they number. And I need those seal pieces. Good luck, my son.
What about Zifnab's dragon? Do you consider him a threat?
If I believed in him, I would. Don't take this personally, my son, but dragons are fairy tales, legends, nothing more. This Zifnab played on your gullibility. I've read that the Sartan used to command the art of illusion. He must have created the dragon for your benefit, to keep you from killing him. It worked, didn't it?
There's a funny scene in the 6th book involving the dragon he doesn't think exists and him. So, it's funny. The funny man.
Zifnab seemed mad, but he genuinely cared about the mensch there. He had a plan to make their lives better.
Who knows how far gone that Sartan was? Living in solitude with those mensch would have driven anyone insane. No wonder he was obsessed with them. Hopefully, when the world is reformed and we destroy the citadel, he'll disappear along with it.
He also said that you were antisocial. Didn't that hurt your feelings?
If you destroy the citadel, won't that kill the mensch that have moved inside?
Are you questioning my tactics?
Yes.
Don't you understand that the threat represented by the Titans far outweighs the importance of the lives of a few mensch? Don't get personally involved with them, Haplo. This is war. There are always sacrifices.
That's enough for right now. I'd like to talk to you later if you don't mind.
Very well. I'll be here.
The other subjects that I haven't talked about is just like the magic, which he refuses to teach us. Like, I don't have any more magic that you don't already know. What? You're learning magic as you go through and your list is getting longer? How is that happening? Alright. So. That's all to say there. Time to move on to, my favorite world. I do really like this world. Not for the reasons that you might think of. But let's rune transfer. God, only one more time we gotta do that. Call on the power of the steering stone to take you through the Death Gate and into Abarak, world of stone. Your ship flies from the Death Gate into a river of lava. Walls of dark rock enclose you in a giant cavern so large that it actually houses a city carved from the stone. You dock the ship a small distance away. Abarak's pretty awesome. Just because I am still a young teenage boy and I really like piracy. Look, it's a thumbnail. It's also a classic picture of just fantasy. Right there, we will never be seeing this dragon here in the game. But I will say with that cover of this dragon here, it looks like they're going to be facing off against it. But actually they don't. It's a helpful dragon. It's nice. Now, the adaptation of Abarak in this one. Where we're gonna start off right now is intriguing that they started off here. But then they also, well, let's just say Elven Star they kind of threw out. Fire Sea you really kind of can't. But at the same time, they also really speedrun it. Because we're going to start off in an area that Haplo never goes to. Your ship floats in a river of lava alongside a stone embankment. In the distance, you see a dark city. The fun thing about Haplo's adventures is that he has no idea what to expect when he gets onto the other side of Death's Gate. So, with Elven Star, he's just kind of floating off in the blue abyss of the sky and the suns and has no idea where he's going. Fire Sea, he lands in the river of lava and he's not prepared for it. So the ship just immediately catches fire. He just goes like, oh God. It's like, oh God. Has to like immediately fix everything so he still has a ship and he doesn't die. We got the fields, we got the city in the distance. You'll have to walk onto the path to the northeast before you can stroll into the city. Hard to make out more than a blur of furrowed rows in the soil. I'll have to get closer. Here, a hulking figure shuffles from a dried-up pond to a field, long dead. Behind him, a cave opens into the cavern wall. Beyond a lava river, you see a city in the distance. Now, the first thing that I think of when I see that city is a city known as Necropolis. It's actually the only city in the book that is of any importance, really. It's not the city that we really are expecting. It looks as if this was once a spring-fed pond, continually replenished. That was long ago, however, and now the ground isn't even damp. We could just take the bucket out of this guy's hand. He just continues to pace back and forth between the dry pond and the dead fields. Few struggling plants poke out of the ground. Furrowed rows in the thin dirt indicate that the field was once blanketed with the strange grass. However, many seasons have passed since the field has seen any life-giving water. They kind of spoil it a little bit, though. The hulking corpse just stares at you, so he's dead.
Greetings. Who are you?
Who? Name Jethro.
Mm-hmm.
What is this place?
What? Place? Home. What are you doing? Doing? Water. Plants.
Would you accompany me?
So we could just take him. It'll be a while before we actually use him, but yeah, we just have Jethro with us now. We'll learn a lot more about what's going on and why there is a dead person walking. Lava flows freely through the channels around you like a river. Your ship floats easily on the surface. The magically treated wood keeps the angry lava from doing any damage. The heat and fumes are suffocating. Only your innate survival magic, acquired during your years in the labyrinth, keeps you from dropping to your knees. The dead workers' dull eyes roam around, confused. Without any direction, the confused dead worker returns to his routine of watering the dead plants. Eventually, we'll give him another purpose. But for now, well, you can just kind of chill here. Apparently a snake can live here, though. The shallow cave ends in an unnatural wall, covered by carved dwarven symbols. Well, snake studies you. 9 identical carved dwarven symbols. There's also some rocks. We could take the rocks. The snake, however, you can almost see its tiny brain deciding to decide if you are food or a threat. Either way, it doesn't seem to like you very much. One of these is a death. Which do you think it is? If you said attack, you live. Only a survival instinct born of a life in the labyrinth keeps you out of harm's way. You decide to treat this snake with a little more respect. Petting the snake is death. Yes, you can pet the snake at the cost of your life. You gather him up and pet him. He looks genuinely happy just before he bites your head off. Nothing we can truly do there. So, let's head to the city. You're surrounded by the stone buildings of the deserted town, including a clock tower to the east and an elegant residence to the north. There's a statue up there. Wears a crown and holds a scepter. With the haze in the air, you can't discern more from this distance. Clock's circular face has 16 marks around the edge. The single hand points to just before the second mark. House or clock tower? Well, the house first. Because again, hello, sir. You're dead, but you don't really have to tell us that. Stairs lead up to another level, and double doors are set in the east wall. He also has a key on him.
How may I be of assistance, sir?
Not my favorite butler, but you'll have to do.
Who are you?
My name is Aramas. I serve Balthazar, the master of the house. His work is very important and cannot be disturbed, so he retains me and a few other servants to handle the domestic work.
Now, the thing is, okay, Balthazar gives you kind of a clue of where we are right now. The thing is, weird that we're here, of all things, because again, Haplo doesn't go here.
Who else does Balthazar retain to serve him?
In addition to myself, Balthazar employs a nanny who cares for the master's young children, and a housekeeper who does the cooking as well.
That's one thing I don't remember about Balthazar, is that I don't remember if he actually has children, because it's really not important to the story.
Who is Balthazar?
Balthazar is the personal necromancer to the king of Khan Telest. He's one of the most celebrated sorcerers in the city.
There's a housekeeper? Isn't it kind of dirty around here? I'd say this housekeeper is slacking off.
The house is a little dusty, but I'm sure she'll get on the job soon.
What important work is he doing?
He does what all necromancers do. He resurrects and sustains the dead so that they can serve the living. But he also spends much of his time researching new magic arts. It's not a very popular activity among other necromancers. In fact, it used to be a crime. But as my master was mentor to most of the others, and because he is a man of power and influence, his research isn't questioned. Not that Balthazar would care in any case.
So yes, we get the information of necromancy. It's taboo. It's a kind of magic you don't use. It's in the theme of Fire Sea of that third book. One of the themes is death and how you deal with death.
What magic arts is he researching?
What do I look like? A necromancer? I'm just his personal servant. I don't pry into his work. It could be hazardous to my health.
You also get the difference between Jethro and Aramis here, and the difference between both of them being dead and how aware he is versus Jethro.
Actually, you look like a corpse. I doubt your health could deteriorate much more.
There's no need to be rude.
Why can't he be disturbed?
An interruption at the wrong time could have disastrous results. His old butler interrupted him once. My first job was to scrape his entrails off the walls.
Is that why that door is locked?
Yes, he takes his breaks at certain times, and only then is it safe to enter. Soon it will be time for his tea. I'm waiting for the housekeeper to bring it.
Enough about your employer.
As you wish.
Why do you have a key chained around your waist?
This is the key to the study door. My master requires his privacy. I only open the door to give him his meals and when he breaks for tea. Right now, I am waiting for the housekeeper to give me the tea tray. The master will be expecting it soon.
Okay.
Do you think you could open the door for me? The master is expecting my visit.
The master isn't expecting anyone today. And even if he was, he would leave his study to speak with you. He doesn't allow anyone inside, except myself.
I don't think this man realizes what day it might be.
Could you go in and give him a message for me?
I can only enter at predetermined times
The
when it's
tea
safe to
time.
do so.
Time for
I
tea.
cannot enter simply to give a message to him.
When exactly do you expect the housekeeper to bring you the tea?
Oh, she should be along any time now.
Why don't you let me carry that key? It looks a little heavy for you.
It's strange. Lately this key has seemed heavier than ever. But it is my duty to hold it for my master. I shall never let it out of my possession while I live.
But you're dead, so give me the key.
I'm not dead, just a little confused. I did have a bad fight with the plague some time ago, but I pulled through. I'm here, aren't I? Though since then everything has seemed somewhat fuzzy.
Is there any other way into the study?
There is a window, but it's very high off the ground. Too dangerous to enter or exit. The master made the study as inaccessible as possible. He doesn't want to be disturbed.
I'm sure.
Perhaps we should talk about something else.
As you wish.
This feels like a question of I haven't been paying attention.
What's behind that door?
That's my master's study, wherein he works his magic and researches the mystic arts. It is off limits to everyone, including his children, especially his children. The volatile nature of his work makes even the briefest visit potentially fatal.
Why are you standing around? Aren't you dead?
Dead? Dead tired, maybe. I don't get enough of rest. Lately, even the act of standing upright has become difficult. I need a vacation.
Where is everyone?
Where is who? Whom did you expect to find? I believe you'll find the children upstairs with the nanny, and the master hard at work in his study.
Could you accompany me?
Regrettably, I cannot. I have to serve my previous charge. I must stay here as long as my master desires.
What is this place?
Well, this is the city of Telestia, one of the oldest and grandest cities in Abarak, aside from the city.
This always happens. It'll clip in eventually.
And we're very proud of our accomplishments. Telestia was built by the dwarves for the other mensch races when they were all still alive. The dwarves themselves lived in caves not too far from here.
This is what I find interesting that they included Telestia in the game here, because I get why, because they do have to explain Telestia. But why they have to have like the way they do Abarak in the game here versus like the importance that Telestia really has in the book. Telestia really doesn't have importance in the book. Although it makes for like a good story, at least for the characters who are involved in Abarak. But man, the way they put it into the game here, it just feels weird.
Some of the dwarves' artistry remains throughout the city. For example, the iron statue in the clock tower is ancient. It is the exact likeness of Clytus the first in the line of dynasts who have ruled over Abarak. The detail is excellent. Even the royal scepter, still carried by Clytus XIV, is a perfect replica of the original. They say that the statue was made by Clytus I's personal dwarf slave after the dwarf went mad. The madness obviously didn't affect his artistic talent, though.
Alright. Time to learn some backstory. We're going to be hearing this backstory from like 3 people in this area, in this place. But at least we'll only hear it like once for today, and then we'll hear the rest of it next time. Because, yeah. And again, they had to put Telestia in the game, like, in order to explain some of the characters and who you're going to meet. But they absolutely could have just had... We didn't have to visit Telestia. We could have just put this in the Necropolis, in Karn Nekros, and not Karn Telest. It's odd. They kind of just squish the worlds to make it even smaller than it already was.
What happened to the other races?
The weaker races died off shortly after they were transplanted to this world. They didn't have strong enough magic to survive the harsh environment of Abarak.
So yes, the fun thing about this is that you live on a literal fire sea, which means that you are inhaling toxic fumes, heavy amounts of toxic fumes, because you're dealing with a cave system with no ventilation whatsoever. So unless you had some sort of magical protection, which the Sartan and the patrons do, everyone else very quickly died of just inhalation of chemicals, sulfur, just, ugh. Like, it's funny and it's also sad at the same time. Just like, yeah, we have a wonderful world for you to live in. They step in, start coughing uncontrollably, and within like a few years they die, and now we're hundreds to thousands of years in the future. I'm going like, yeah, everybody's dead. This is horrible. This is a horrible world.
Where exactly did the dwarves live?
I believe they once lived in caves just outside of the city. I can't be certain, however, that it isn't simply legend. The region hasn't been explored for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Where is Karn Nekros?
It's at the core of the world. I've never been there. In fact, no one in this Karn has. We've never traveled outside of the city. We've never had to.
Well, guess what? We're gonna find out that that information is wrong.
Does the Dynast rule this city?
Not really. We've never even seen him. Our king has ruled Telestia for ages. The Dynast only rules here on paper.
Not really.
Is this scepter anything special?
Of course. It is the scepter of rulership. It gives incredible magic power to he who wields it. The original Dynast, Clytus I, created the scepter, and his line has used it to secure their leadership ever since. No one would dare oppose a Dynast who has control of the scepter.
So we've had a hammer, we've had a sword, we've had a staff. Now we have a scepter of leadership. Of rulership, actually.
Why did Clytus' slave go mad?
The dwarf was the first experiment in necromancy. Some say that the art wasn't perfected when Clytus I brought his slave back to life, and that insanity was the result. Afterward, Clytus banished the slave back to the ancestral dwarven lair to sit in solitude forever.
I'm looking forward to when we actually get to see the event he's describing.
This didn't affect the dwarf's devotion to his lord, however. When a body is resurrected, it learns very little, and it usually reverts to doing whatever it did during life. The dwarf continued to worship Clytus I. He even carved the statue in the clock tower to honor him. Few believe that Clytus was deserving of such an honor, but even fewer will admit that in public. Clytus XIV reveres his ancestor, and no one speaks ill of either of them without fear of being turned to dust.
Enough about this place.
As you wish.
You're as interesting as a corpse. This conversation is over.
As you wish.
So yes. So he's wonderfully dead. He doesn't remember much. He just remembers what his tasks are supposed to be, and that's pretty much it. No future remembering of anything to an extremely limited extent. This key, I feel like we need it, but we actually don't.
The smallest people made their home in caves and caverns all their own. They'll only come outside to play when all the arrows point the way.
This is supposed to be rather sad.
Where are they found?
It's like the children are supposed to be
Just out of
upstairs. Well, the
sight
children are gone.
under the ground. Don't look too close, they'll run away unless the arrows point the way.
You listen to her recite the poem The Little Ones in its entirety. When she finishes, she starts
The
reading it again
smallest
from the
people
top.
made their home
She's never
in
going to be down
caves
with the
and
tea
caverns
set.
all their own. They'll
So it's
only
kind of
come
our job.
outside to play
It's a
when
toy
all the
that belonged to the previous
arrows
occupant of the
point the
nursery.
way.
This isn't even the
Which
tea
way,
set that we're
you
supposed to
ask?
actually have,
Where are
but
they found? Just
it
out
should
of
do.
sight under the ground. Don't look too close, they'll run away. Unless the
Dead Granny
arrows
ignores you, her
point the
decayed
way.
brain totally engrossed in the task of reading aloud from the children's book.
The
Hey,
smallest
Grandma,
people
over
made
here.
their home in caves and caverns all their
There's
own.
no one here to listen to you anymore. Stop reading.
They'll only come outside to play.
Only to
when
read
all the
louder in
arrows
effect to drown you
point the
out.
way.
You know, that nursery rhyme is starting to grow on me. Maybe a few hundred more times and I'll actually like it.
Which way, you ask? Where are they found?
Give me that
Just out
book.
of sight
Maybe if you didn't have your
under the
nose in it, you'd
ground.
notice that I'm trying to speak to you.
Don't look too close, they'll run
So you
away.
decide to remove the book
Unless
yourself.
the
She doesn't resist, but no sooner is the book gone than she stops speaking. Her eyes go blank, and she sits motionless. That's kind of sad what I just did.
Who are you?
I'm the nanny of this family. I take care of the children while the master does his research. In fact, I should be reading to the children right now as they go to sleep. Have you seen my book?
Why do you read the same rhyme over and over?
I read until the children have gone to sleep. I must read now. Where is my book? I can't find my book.
And it feels like Haplo isn't actually paying attention.
Who do you read to?
To the children. Aren't they precious? I've taken care of children most of my life. I love to read to them. I should be reading to them now.
You're quite the conversationalist, but I've other things to do.
She just stares. We'll be back to talk with the nanny a little bit later. For now, though, time for tea. He accepts it gravely, looks over at the double doors, and he just waits Time for tea.
Now that you have the tea, what are you waiting for? Open the door and give it to your master.
Yes, I do have the tea, but I must wait until the appointed time until I open the door. Otherwise, I might interrupt a vital experiment. That would be disastrous for Balthazar's research, and perhaps for myself as well.
What time is tea served?
The 4th hour. I'll recognize it when the tower clock strikes 4 bells. He expects his tea at the same time every day.
All right.
You're as
So, time to go to the clock tower. I'm going to force the time. No one else is here. Base of the tower is unadorned. A ladder leads up, but is broken. A rope hangs down within reach. So let's pale. Have to be holding the hook. Well, we can't hold the hook. Let's put rocks in it, and then put it in. There you go. But the rope, though, now we can climb it. You stand on a small platform behind the clock's mechanism. The back of the clock face takes up the west wall. So it was 2, so we gotta make it 4. Release, we got the escapement, we got the crank. We turn it. With both hands, you turn the crank and wind the rope around the drum until you see the hook. The drum locks when the rope has been drawn entirely up. The weight of the rocks in the bucket pulls at the rope wrapped around the clock's drum. Slowly it begins to unwind. Turn the drum and move the clock's gears. There's 2 bongs. But it's locked. So, press on the escapement. When a weight pulls and one winds the rope around the drum, the escapement only allows it to drop in small increments. This causes the gears to turn slowly, moving the clock's hand at a steady pace to ensure accurate time. Currently, the weight of the bucket of rocks is drawing the rope down, and the clock is working. So let's pull the release lever. And then get the time dial. Here we go. It's kind of weird that you have to pull it like manually. Time dial just before the 4th mark. And now we turn the crank again. Bong. Here we go. 4 distinct bongs. Pull the release lever. Head back down. And tea time? Tea time. The room of learning. A few books and papers are scattered on across every surface. But there's room for much more.
If you'll excuse me a moment, sir, I must serve the tea and leave immediately. I'll talk with you afterward.
Furniture is even carved from rock or made from petrified weeds of some sort. Actually, the end result is rather attractive. The dead butler jerks into motion and shuffles out the double doors, closing them behind him. Not really paying attention to us. This is a room of learning. A few books and papers are scattered on across every surface, but there's room for much more. The desk is the focus of the room, perhaps the place that most of the work was accomplished. Bathed in the hellish red light of the lava river. So there's really just one thing we're taking. Book. Which... It's time for this weekly's reading. Lots of information today. Oh, there's not much on here. Okay, we're good. So, a lot of Fire Sea is told from the perspective of Balthazar, in terms of like the journals that he writes. He keeps records of everything. I record these notes in no particular order, with no particular format. Should this text be read by others than myself, I can but apologize in advance. My name is Balthazar, and I'm the king's personal necromancer. My duties include raising and maintaining the royal servants, though my deeper interests lie in the pursuit of other lost magical arts. The following notes comprise the results of a lifetime of research into these arts, as well as my personal musings on these and other matters. I've never considered the practice of necromancy to be on strong moral ground. We have established that, in order to survive in this harsh world, the dead are required to serve the living. Their labor supports our existence. But do we truly know what we're doing? What exactly are we bringing back? And what do our tamperings affect? And how do our tamperings affect the rest of the wave? The dead never appear especially unhappy, merely confused. In their own unfathomable minds, they exist in a time previous to their deaths. They perform their duties which they performed in life. In fact, it's almost impossible to teach the dead anything new. Their capacity to focus on unfamiliar tasks is minimal. A corpse can be given new orders, but in due course, depending on the nature of the particular specimen, it will inevitably revert to modes of behavior he demonstrated in life. There is no harm done when the tasks that the specimen performed in life have some application after death, but sometimes those tasks have little or no worth in our world, and yet the corpse, living mentally in its former reality, cannot be persuaded to abandon its behavior. Occasionally, the behavior can be modified to one of useful purpose, but more often all we can do is ignore the corpse, which strikes me as a regrettable waste of manpower. Nevertheless, even the densest corpse can be used for menial tasks, and this becomes their primary value. Corpses can be made to perform functions which the living cannot, or would not, perform. I can't recall a time when battles were waged by living soldiers. Why trouble ourselves when we have available so many who have already fallen? Their insensitivity to pain allows them to sustain blows that would cripple a living soldier. The dead won't stop until they can no longer move. In addition to war, corpses can be induced to undertake all potentially harmful tasks, such as fending off attacks from would-be predators. Claws and poison stings are fearful only to those who are aware of the consequences. Personally, I feel that we should be focusing our magic on keeping ourselves alive, rather than resurrecting ourselves from death. With the plague more rampant than ever, we are fighting a losing battle. Even now, the dead outnumber the living. And that's the affected death of Abarak as a whole, is that it's a world of the dead, no longer the living. The plague is what they kind of threw into the game, because the plague is really just living in this environment. When I begin to research a new spell, I always start by attempting to build runes onto established spells. Sometimes, an entirely new spell can be discovered by adding a single rune onto a totally unrelated spell. This was the case with Possession, the art of casting one's soul into a lower life form. I started by taking some basic runes and building onto them. Many of the standard spell bases turned out to be dead ends. I foraged through some of my ancient texts without much success, but I did discover an obscure warding spell of awesome power. One wouldn't think that a warding spell could be manipulated into a possession spell, but forceful spells are sometimes born from the most unlikely sources. The warding spell has a long history. I don't know if it has ever been used in Abarak. It can only be cast by a group of very powerful Sartan. The spell creates a huge shield that repels any foreign magic. I remain uncertain as to its original purpose. The diagram of its rune structure follows. Ward spell. That'll come up later. Using this as a base, I experimented by adding variations of runes onto the end. The process was long and tedious, but as it happened, only one rune was able to fashion an altered spell. The diagram of the new spell follows. So we got Ward with the 4, Possession with the 5th. And, you know, there's room for more. The result was the Possession spell. Casting it proved somewhat difficult. There are certain limitations inherent in the magic. One can only cast one soul into a lower life form, such as the Pakas we use as beasts of burden. One must have physical contact with the target. The soul transfers through touch, so the spell cannot be cast over distance. While one is inhabiting the possessed body, the original body is rendered immobile, helpless. I have some theories regarding the dynamics of the spell. If the original body is for some reason destroyed, the soul should be capable of continued existence in the new body. Eventually, however, that soul will forget its previous existence and come to think and behave in accordance with the inclinations of the possessed body. But even then, the original soul should prove retrievable by the application of certain spells. It might even be possible to reconstruct the original body by using the host body, while the soul still exists. Unfortunately, my research has not revealed the spells required to accomplish this, the knowledge of which would have been of great comfort during the test phase of possession. The extent of her lost knowledge is shameful. Surely our ancestors had access to these and innumerable other magical spells, and I am merely passing over well-trodden ground. Only my own library was more complete. That's also a failure of Abarak, is they used to have the ability to do so much more, but over the passing of generations and generations, a lot of the information was lost, which also leads to what's going to be the main problem of this world, but also the overall problem of the world itself. The Unravel Illusion. Another art that has intrigued me for some time is illusion. I have many books on the subject, though none of them detail the entire spell. The use of this magic produces insidious results. The spell speaks directly to the reasoning center of the brain of higher animals, such as Sartan, Patron, and even the mensch races. The spell persuades the brain to accept that something is there when it isn't, or that something isn't there when it is. For example, an illusion spell can create a table in the middle of an empty room, even though the person viewing the table might grasp that the table is an illusion. He will not be able to pass his hand through it, because the spell has convinced his brain otherwise. Possibilities abound for employing this spell, and I regret that all attempts to reproduce it have left me with nothing to show for my efforts. However, I have been somewhat more successful in researching the Unravel Illusion spell by approaching it from reverse. My reasoning is that I might be able to build the spell by first determining how to break an illusion. At the time of this writing, I have not discovered the spell, but I suspect that I am very close. I knew that this day would come. Water has become more scarce each day. The fields of cairn grass are withering. The lake, our primary water source, is drying up. Soon the lake will be nothing but mud, and a little more than rock and dust. The Colossus must be failing. When our ancestors built it, the Colossus was intended to last forever, heating our world, melting the sea of ice above, and distributing the water throughout. Magic is dying. We must travel back into the core of Abarak where our ancestors originated, where the remaining magic is strongest. Life will still be possible there, although all I've seen are pictures and descriptions in my text. I'm sure that if I could examine the Colossus firsthand, I might be able to determine the problem and help to correct it. There's no other choice. We shall sail back to Cairn Necros, to the palace of Clytus the 14th, current dynast, on the northwestern edge of the Fire Sea. Out of respect, I shall beseech His Majesty for permission to live in Cairn Necros while the Colossus is being repaired. I don't anticipate any resistance. He would refuse refugees, especially ones eager to help correct the problem. And as I have stated, we have no choice but to go, or life in Telestia will shortly become unfeasible. The problem of transporting the dead is an extremely challenging one. Many of them, removed from their familiar surroundings, will grow disoriented. 3 at least will find it impossible to adapt, so we've decided to leave them behind. First is my own servant, Aramis. He has been left with my family, for as long as I can. He's been with my family for as long as I can remember. Although his thoughts are as clear as the best of the dead, he is simply too frail to undertake the journey. I will leave him here where he is comfortable. The second is my nanny. Lately, she has fallen victim to a repetitive behavior, that of reading children's stories over and over again. Should the book she loves be taken away from her, she is despondent until it is returned. Not only will she be useless to us where we are going, I doubt she could survive the trip intact. The last is Jethro, one of the croc workers. He is among the most physically well-developed corpses that we have, but his brain is like a sieve. He waters his crops as if they were still growing and as if there was still water to pour on them. If he is instructed to do something else, he will perform that task for a few moments, only to wander right back to watering his crops. We can't spare one of the living to supervise him by continually reminding him to accompany us. We haven't the time to train one of the dead to do it, so it would be best to leave him here. I'll leave these notes for you to find, reader. Their purpose is to shed light on who we are, where we have gone, so that you will follow in our path. Do not remain here. Life is impossible. Follow us to the core, where we have a fighting chance. This section, unfortunately, does not do a great job to explain, like, the beginning chapters of Fire Sea. Because if I were to look to it, it's like the first 8 or 9 chapters of Fire Sea is dedicated to the people of Telestia making the trip down to the necropolis, to where Clytus is. It's somber. It's really good character building and also world building because of understanding the world around them, because I have to go back to the Colossus. Heating our world, melting the sea of ice above. So, the world of Abarak is just this ball in space, pretty much. Everybody lives close to the core of the world, literally. Because the further you go out, the less heated it is, until you reach the surface, which is briefly touched on with Fire Sea. There's no atmosphere. There's literally no atmosphere when you go onto the surface, and it's just surrounded by ice. It's the melting of the ice from the Colossus, from the energy of the Colossus, which allows for everybody to live, and why there's water that can be around so much lava. Literally. Except not anymore. But yeah, it's... They put Telestia in for this information, as well as there's a bunch of information of puzzles in order to be solved, because we'll be coming back. But man, if there is ever, something to read there, read Fire Sea. Of all the books there, you could read the first book, it's a good story there. Reading Fire Sea, you could possibly read it on its own. There's going to be some reoccurring characters in there. That's why I say read the first book as well. But yeah, it's It's the best they could do, I suppose, because of all the adaptations that they had to do. Follow us to the core when we have a fighting chance. It also goes through, like, some of the hardships that the people of Celestia go through. Which is a little bit brutal. So yeah. We read the book. And when we read the book, we now have access to our next destination. And learn those 2 spells. Ward and Possession. We're not going to be using Ward on this world. But Possession, that'll come.
How?
You're as
Alright. The other thing about Celestia is that because of where it is in the book version of the world, the other thing that happens with it is that it is dark. Because the light doesn't come mostly from the lava, it came from the light of the Colossus. And because the Colossus was dying out, so did the light that was surrounding the world. So when they were leaving, they were pretty much leaving a black void behind. I think there was like a single light that they left off in the castle, knowing that it was still there. But then they just descended into the tunnels to go down into the world. All right. New location time. There's Celestia. This is not how the world works because we can't just sail down to Clytus's palace. Well, we could, but it wouldn't be this short. But they have to put it into one screen. I kind of get it. Clytus's palace. Lights in the windows indicate that it is inhabited. Like the deserted city you visited, the palace has been carved from the surrounding rock. Unlike the city, you see living guards outside and lights in the windows. Life still thrives here, evidently. Take a few steps in, the cave quickly branches into many tunnels. You become very confused, so you turn back. There's only one direction to go.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
The guards there stare at you in wonder, never having expected anyone to willingly walk into the palace. Now, the unfortunate thing about this adaptation is that they kind of cut out Necropolis completely, which is a fascinating city of like twists and turns and tunnels and whatnot, but they just don't do it. The guard claims, you explain that you're trailing the refugees from Celestia. The guard claims he doesn't know what you're talking about, but a knowing look to his companion leads you to believe otherwise. They inform you that all visitors must see the dynast. He makes his habit to greet them personally. He makes his habit to greet them personally and hold a banquet in their honor. Again, the knowing look that passes between the guards is disquieting. With a grip that is more insistent than friendly, the first guard escorts you into the palace. You wait for about an hour in a bare room with a single door and no windows. Then the same guard takes you to a large room with a long table plied with food and drink. At the head of the table, a man wearing rich robes and a crown of gold sits in a throne-like chair. A broad, welcoming smile on his face, he invites you to sit and partake of this meal set out in your honor. For lack of a better plan, you sit down.
Greetings, my friend. My name is Clytus the 14th. I am the Dynast of Abarak, and I rule here, but you probably know that. I'm always pleased to receive visitors. I get so very little. Please, tell me how things are in the outer reaches.
I'm surprised by how Clytus looks, because in the book he's more described as like a more towering man, a little bit of a brute. And there's so many ways that you could do this conversation, really. You can get to the point. Life's great. Everything's great on Abarak.
Actually, I'd like to ask you if another group of refugees arrived here before me.
I'm afraid you're the first visitor we've had in a very long time. If you were expecting to find someone here, they haven't arrived yet.
They, surprisingly, like this scene in the book, they kind of keep relatively familiar, except for one thing, but they had to switch that up.
The outer reaches aren't good. Water's drying up. Life is difficult, if not impossible.
I have heard some distressing reports about the quality of life in some of the outer reaches, but nothing verifiable. I've been waiting for first-hand information. I'm glad you're here. Are you a refugee? Are there others that require assistance?
Don't know where honestly don't know which went. Because again, thinking about like with Haplo, he's not the one who stands in as an emissary. That's another character who we'll meet briefly, shortly.
I'm no refugee.
So, you don't represent anyone? You don't require assistance? Very well. You know, you look very different. Foreign. I've seen people from all over Abarak, and you look like none of them. Who are you? Where are you from?
He's never been through about his being truthful.
I'm from a remote cairn in the outer reaches. You probably haven't heard of it.
Where are my manners? You've probably been traveling for some time and are very hungry. I've been forcing you to converse while all of this food has lain here getting cold. You have my leave to partake. We will talk more later, I'm sure.
I'd like to ask you a few more questions first.
The time for talk is past. Now it's time to enjoy ourselves. Perhaps a toast would be appropriate. We must drink to our new relationship. I'm sure that we will grow to be exceptional friends.
So Dionysus loses his cup, produces a bottle of red wine from the bar behind him, and pours a single glass. He orders a dead servant to take the glass from his hand and place it before you.
Please accept this special wine. I only bring it out for special occasions. I'm sure you'll find it to be unique.
Stares at you like a vulture, waiting for you to drink from the crystal glass. You notice that he is not holding a similar glass.
I think I'll save this for later if it's all the same.
It is not the same, my friend. You will drink that wine, and you will do it now. I've lost all patience with you.
He rises from the table and traces a spell in the air while you watch, dumbfounded. The blue rune shoots across the banquet table and explodes in your chest. You expect to feel some pain, but all you notice is an overwhelming hunger. You begin stuffing your mouth and pockets with food and drink. In spite of yourself, you snatch up the crystal goblet and drain the contents. Clytus smiles and sits back down, satisfied.
I know you, patron. Our books talk about your race. We believed them to be legends, but here we have proof. And if you are real, how many more of the other legends could be true? The other realms, the Death Gate.
Clytus is one of the secondary villains of the entire series. He goes through so many volumes, and you actually spend a chapter or two with him just like reading through, and you start getting the history of what the Sundering was, what happened, and you learn it through him, of all things, and how he wants to escape. And I think he's actually going to talk about this, but most importantly, he wants the Death Gate. Like, he wants to go out of Abarak. He doesn't want to conquer the world. He wants to escape it.
Abarak is dying. There's no way to save it, but you represent a way into new worlds, fresh lands to conquer. After you are dead, your corpse will tell me everything I wish to know. You will help me destroy your own people. Think on this as the poison eats through your body. Guards, remove this trash.
Soldiers grab you roughly from the chair and drag you down long, winding corridors, Clytus' laughter echoing in your ears. You quickly lose track of the route, your aching midsection demanding all of your attention. Soon you are thrown against a cold stone wall, and shackles snap around your wrists. You slump to the floor as the guards stroll from the room, laughing at some private joke. You gather enough strength to look around the room. It's a stone cell. One wall has an open doorway, suggesting that manacles are what keep prisoners from escaping. A peg on the wall is home to a key on a ring, which looks like it might fit the lock on your shackles. It is, of course, out of reach. Another occupant of the cell is chained to the same wall that holds you prisoner. Thin crown along his brow attracts your attention. The Sartan boy is some kind of royalty. Why he is confined in a dungeon is beyond you. The paleness of his skin, the occasional grunt and spasm, all lead you to believe that he has had his share of Clytus' poison. Well, now here's a problem. The prison in the necropolis is gigantic. There is no reason, and there is no reason in any of the books that have to deal with the necropolis prison, because it's more than just the Fire Sea. It's also the 5th and 6th and also 7th books. Yeah, there's the 4 books have this location in it. They're always put in separate cells. There's never like, oh, you're gonna share a cell. Like, I think there's one time, maybe? But I don't think that even, no. I don't think they ever do it, if I remember correctly. So, I'm gonna bite that there. So yeah, here's Edmund. He's one of the main characters of Fire Sea. There's also a dog. If you know the books, you might have been asking yourself, where's the dog? That's a complicated question. Like, yes, there's a dog here. The dog isn't scruffy in the least. His fur is thick and well-groomed. His eyes are bright and alert. He looks strong and well-fed. It's obvious that someone cares after him. He rests by the doorway, watching you with half-lidded eyes. The dog. Dog, the dog, the dog. When am I going to find time to talk about the dog in this dang series? It's not going to be now. I'm going to leave it here because we're going to be going into a long discussion with Edmund about a whole bunch of other things. So, also, we got a steak. It did mention that through the hunger spell we put food in our pockets. The steak is so rare it's practically dripping blood. You can't identify what kind of animal it came from. You must have grabbed it from Clytus's banquet table while you were in the thrall of the hunger spell. We'll leave it by being poisoned and reading some children's poems. The smallest people made their home in caves and caverns all their own. They'll only come outside to play when all the arrows point the way. Which way, you ask? Where are they found? Just out of sight, under the ground. Don't look too close, they'll run away, unless the arrows point the way. Yellow night, sky is bright. All the world is filled with light. Just because sun's above, every heart is filled with love. Grab the snake and hold him fast. Don't let him go. Grab him quick or you'll lose. Grab him quick or you... Reset. Do it again. Grab the snake and hold him fast. Don't let him go. Grab him quick or you won't last if you're too slow. 1 makes 4 and 1 left over. The one we've got is just a cave. Started out warm, but got much colder. It's just like living in the grave. Where are the others? They disappeared. Perhaps something went very wrong. If they survived, not like we feared, why have they stayed away so long? All right, let's save it here. And we will pick up talking with our prince. The Sartan boy's face is gaunt, but his eyes are clear and determined. He wears a thin crown on his brow and a silver medallion around his neck. We currently have 745 points, so we have almost half the points at this point. And I would say once we get out of Clytus's palace the first time, we'll be back later. We'll be about halfway through the... No, we're about more than halfway through the game. Maybe. There's a lot of talking coming up. Yeah, be ready for that. But there's also some cool scenes coming up, too. As we finish up Abarak, and possibly next week, we'll be able to go to the 4th and last new world. All right. We'll leave it there, though. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching later, if you choose to watch later. And I will see you next time for more Deathgate. We're poisoned. We need to deal with it. There's a dog in front of us. See you then. Take care, everyone. Bye.